welcome back to another H&K video game experience. Today we're going to talk about the very first NES RPG, Dragon Warrior. Also, Coach is going to give his experience with that. We're going to talk about Everquest. Kleer's going to hit you with some news. We're also going to throw in some other games, just some other video game talk to sprinkle in to keep it spicy, keep it new, keep it fresh. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the H&K video game experience, everybody. This is HolliwoodKole, and I'm here with Kleerfyre as always, but the special guest today, CoachRX, PlayStation handle. What is up, dude?
What's up, man?
So we're very excited about this one. As I'm glad we have our first guest on here. Usually just hear me and Kleer back and forth, and so hopefully we can get a regular guest here. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. So, I wanted you to be on this one because, one, you know, we kind of play the same type of games and stuff anyway, all the way back in the day. We kind of didn't really, we knew each other for a long time, but we really kind of started hanging out at Jones when we were going to college and getting involved in Tekken, and Kleerfyre came, 1 year behind us at Jones, so we all kind of hung out there. But Tekken 3, between classes, we played Resident Evil, all this kind of stuff, a lot of strategy games. And, of course, it eventually rolled into RPGs. And so Everquest was a big one for us. And I got that one probably in 2000 and, 2002 or 3, right before Full Sail. And that's when I had the Rogue.
Lock key.
Yeah, lock key. So, that was a lot of fun playing that, back in the day. But see, I tried to go back to that one, and it was just tough. I mean, it wasn't. And I know you went to WoW for a little while. And Kleer, did you ever play WoW?
I played WoW for 5 minutes.
You played it for 5 minutes and paid for a whole month?
No, I didn't even pay for a whole month. I got one of those free. Got one of those free ones. When you bought the game, you get that free trial month or whatever.
Yeah.
I played it, and I just couldn't get into it. It reminded me too much of Everquest, and I just couldn't get into Everquest either. I mean, I even beta tested Everquest Frontiers when it came on the PS2, and I tried to put time into it, and I just couldn't get into any one of those three. But now I'm all about the MMOs. So
what kills me with those games is I always play a warrior, and you just can't play by yourself.
No, you got to have a group. You got to have
a healer, a puller, a crowd control, and it just, if nobody's online, you just can't do anything but twiddle your thumbs.
Go to the Nexus Stone and make potions or something. Yeah. I remember that one thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because every character on that game, Everquest, had a unique ability or whatever. Like the Rogue was huge DPS, but he definitely had to have a group. I would run up on a blue enemy and be like, nah, dude, I can't even touch him. I have no idea about it. But if I had a warrior, or a healer or something, it could really do. Not even a healer, a warrior that could just keep aggro.
Somebody to hold aggro while you stab that back.
And you remember. And I remember we were with Fell Omen, and we had the whole. And if you can remember this, you've played a lot. You still play it now, EverQuest?
Well, see, what happened was they made it free to play, and but in doing so, they took away all your equipment, all your AAs. You remember alternate advancement points, and you have to continue to pay the whatever it is, $17.99 a month to get all your stuff back, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. I just jump on every once in a while to get nostalgic, and I did, the little command /played. Showed you how long you played it.
Yeah.
Guess.
Oh, man. I don't know, 5 years or something.
Calanthus has been online for 12 years, 4 months. That's longer.
He's older than
my kid. I spent in primary education.
Oh my gosh. 12 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And we went to some, and this dude, I was on there, and it was so massive by the time I got on. I think it was Planets of Power. Is that
Planes of Power? Yeah.
Planes of Power when I got on. And I got a gold, and in fact, I still have it somewhere. It's a gold case or a gold tin that had all the stuff in there, and it had a little figurine in there. And I still got that figurine. It's like a little pewter thing. I bet it's probably worth something. It was a collector's edition.
I remember getting the game in 2003 when I was at Mississippi State. And I went down to the Walmart down there to buy it, and it had like 6 discs with the bad boy, So I remember getting that copy, and it had the month free trial. And just looking back at that, I was like, man, I spent every little bit of money I had right then and there to get this game that I played for like 20 days. I didn't even probably play it any of that much of that time. And ended up just, like whatever on it.
It's funny that we're on this topic. Brad McQuaid, the guy that designed Everquest, it's like got a huge cult following. And he made that game Vanguard that flopped. But now there's a new game they're working on called Pantheon. You can find it on YouTube, and it's
I've heard about that.
Pretty much the same format as Everquest, and I'm excited about it. I got a couple of friends that pretty much our only relationship is through video games, and we just love to do that together.
Yeah, that I was trying to think of that. What was that healer's name that was real good? He was like from Germany or something. Yeah, Slit. Where was he?
Slit was from France. I still got his password. I hope he didn't kill himself because he couldn't access his Everquest account.
he was good, man. I mean, but before we get off the thing, I just wanted to go whatever we went to one time. So I didn't know nothing about where everything was. Or I knew where East Commons and West Commons and Freeport pretty much. I mean, I got to where I could walk around. So I started with a Paladin, and then I switched to the Rogue. And then, but anyway, we had wandered off into some cave to kill some dragon or something. And the whole group got together, and we just started wandering off like a band of adventurers or whatever. Because you can have as many people as you want, I guess, in a raid or whatever, but. So when we went to the cave, and it was me, you, of course, everybody. Everybody died instantly, but me and you and Slit. But we ended up still, and everybody's just watching and talking, and we ended up killing that dragon, and everybody was so proud of it because I guess it was a big deal, back in the day, and now the guild's powerful enough to kill this dragon now. That's what everybody was saying. So I was like, cool, whatever. It's awesome to have just a guild do it.
It's all you need, was me to hold aggro. And Slit to heal me while you backstab over and over. I mean, that's a perfect formula.
Well, it's funny that y'all are talking about that because this is something that I checked out in the news just recently. Because WoW is actually still a very big, popular MMO going on right now, and they just dropped a new raid recently in there, and the big clans out there are actually complaining about how difficult this raid boss is. I don't think to this time anybody's been able to beat him yet, and it's been out for a week now, at least a week. And so they're even talking about like reducing the strength of the boss so people can actually beat it.
No,
that's how bad it's gotten. Like with it. So I don't know how far they're going to go with that, but that was kind of a rumor that I was reading on one of the forums I follow.
They need to talk to the guy from Everquest that killed the god of the game. Remember that? Yeah. There was a god of the game or something like that, and he was just a beast that nobody's supposed to kill. And some dude before it was cool used a bunch of science to try to figure out just where to stand and do damage to him, and it took him 2 weeks.
Get hit. Yeah.
Yeah, and he killed the god of the game. And I don't know exactly what happened, but like he never respawns or something. Like it's like a Bitcoin or something. They can't reprogram him in or something. I don't know. They didn't expect for him to die, but I don't know. I don't know that whole story. That was years ago. I mean,
that's pretty much the gist of it. They killed an unkillable boss by pretty much cheating, but
just using its own code or whatever against
they
it.
found the weakness.
Yeah,
that's what's always fascinated me about the gaming community is, we get a game, you play it, eventually you're going to hit a roadblock or something, and it's either I look it up on the internet or I stop playing the game. And and you go look it up, you beat it, move on. But the pioneers that find all this stuff, like even in Dragon Warrior, what we're about to talk about later, how would you know to search on the ground on this particular square?
Because they sent me a strategy guide with it. That's the only way I know.
But somebody figured that out. Like Metal Gear Solid 5, I just quit playing. How would you know to search in this particular box for this particular item, other than going to
trial and error?
Right.
I mean, the same thing's happening in the gaming community now. I mean, you look at like with the Destiny's raids, they're dropping them without any information on anywhere for you to find them out, and people are actually beating these raids for the first time within 2 to 3 hours of them being out. It's pretty impressive that they're getting through them that quick, and they're figuring out the puzzles really quick. Now, after that first completion, it's all on the internet. Everybody knows how to beat it at that point, but
that is not a very good example because they actually took time for Dragon Warrior and for all these other games. Destiny, Bungie, Activision just took just enough time to get y'all to pay for it.
You're just hating on that right now.
I read about
pay
that.
Schemes now.
Now I am with Destiny big time because that's a poison. But anyway, we need to do one on EverQuest. You need to get Edgy on here.
We'll get Edgy on. She said she wanted to do it with EverQuest, and I think it'd be a really interesting one. Edgy is actually one of our friends. Coach doesn't know her yet. He'll meet her now that me and Coach finally got hooked back up on PSN. She's one of the people that I played Destiny with and other games too. She's actually still currently playing EverQuest, and she actually Twitch streams it pretty regularly. She leads people in raids all the time in that, so she's pretty well versed in EverQuest and know it from all the way back.
That's cool.
Her name is Satori on the game.
I think so, yeah.
I'm just kidding, bro. That's somebody we used to know.
I don't know. Heck, I don't know. I think she's still Edgy as Thunder on EverQuest as well. I think she's kind of like me that's carried the name through quite several other places. I think that's right. She might be something else.
Do you know what server she plays on?
I don't. I can look it up and find it for you and tell you.
I'm still on Antonius Bale because I had to play with Europeans because I worked the night shift. So I'm raiding with them, during my days and their nights.
Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, so you're used to the RPG mechanic and stuff, even in an MMO, which is a unique breed. But Baldur's Gate, Diablo, all these types of games that are a little bit modern. Yeah, Neverwinter now, which is still an MMO, but
get experience, become more powerful,
and then go fight more powerful and get more experience. But anyway, so we'll dive into that a little bit more. So we want to get what's going on in the news, of course, and get you guys up to date. But I just want to tell you what we are going to talk about today, which is going to be the Dragon Warrior for NES. One of the very first RPGs in the U.S. and how we kind of simplified it, or the designers or developers simplified it for Americans, and nobody had any idea what it was. And you got 3 dudes here that experienced it for the very first time, and we can give you a perspective on what it was like at that time to put on a brand new genre of game that nobody's ever played before. But before we get into that, Kleer, what do you got for the news?
Well, I'm going to start it off with the first big hit right off the bat. A couple weeks ago I was telling you about net neutrality and everything. That net neutrality vote happened today, and it went the exact way everybody was predicting.
What?
The FCC ruled to disband the net neutrality rules. So right now we're in a phase of where we don't have net neutrality, but we do. It's kind of a gray area. The thing that's going on now is it has to go through Congress and all of that before anything else really happens before something becomes substantial. But it is a big deal because net neutrality does mean a lot for us gamers. You know, once again, you're looking at like internet fast lanes. You're looking at giving priority service to specific things. It's a big deal. You know, I see a lot of gamers on Facebook, on the groups that I follow, saying, oh, it's no big deal. We didn't have net neutrality before, so why does it really matter if we have it now? And I'm like, well, you're a little young buck. You need to learn. There's things happen in history where before you had these rules, it was fine and dandy, but when you had the rules, it protected what you used to have. Then when you pull the rules away, it ruined it all. And we're having that same flow. It happens through history all the time. When you put in a new rule, it actually protects, so you actually can protect what we used to have and then have it pull out and it not. Well, that's kind of what's happening with net neutrality here. You know, you're going to have places where, you know, you can start getting charged for the website you go to. You're going to have higher premiums for your internet. You're going to have crazier data caps. You're going to have data caps on specific things now. One of the big things that before net neutrality came along was they were actually holding Netflix hostage. AT&T and AT&T, Verizon, all of the big three and Comcast for internet. They're actually holding Netflix hostage, saying, "Hey, look, you got to pay us more money for your internet bandwidth coming through." So that's when Netflix actually started going up, because I remember when my first subscription for Netflix was $4.99 a month. And I had streaming with it, I could get DVDs with it, everything. And then the next thing I know, I get an email sent to me saying it's going up to $8.99. And that was right at that point of that whole argument of them saying, hey, look, we need more money from you, or otherwise we're not going to let your bandwidth go through. And that was kind of what the FCC was doing. Then that net neutrality came in and it actually protected it from that kind of thing happening. So guys listening out there, if you think that net neutrality is bogus, just look at the past and look at what net neutrality actually helped fix and helped us protect us from. There's already rules in place when I cannot pronounce the guy's name, but he actually is an old Verizon employee that's now the FCC chair. And he's being bought by Verizon, AT&T, Comcast right now, just to basically say whatever they want him to say. And he said that if we don't take back net neutrality, then people aren't going to have access to internet health care, telehealth, things like that. Well, there's already provisions in there that give health care and telehealth in specific fast lane into it, so that way it's protected and people that need access to it can actually get the access to it. So it's already protected. So the crap that he laid for us saying that we need to get rid of net neutrality so we can have this access was just a load to try to get us to believe him. So don't believe anything he's spewing, because right now he's spewing so many falsities, it's crazy. So just don't believe him on anything like that.
It's very sombering because I don't know enough about it, but I do know that the human nature, human condition will take over at some point and find some kind of loophole in these laws, even if they are set forth with, with a good intentions, yeah, mm-hmm. And try to find a way to make money on it. Well, the law says, and then you can't do anything, and then these people that are paying Comcast or whoever, and that just shows how powerful these different corporations are. They're losing money on cable because nobody cares anymore. And we're going to go to internet and pay for, what is the name, anything,
Yahoo, Netflix,
Yahoo, whatever. Yeah,
I mean anything.
I'm talking about you pay for your own History Channel. Pay History Channel directly $10 a month to get access to their channel. So instead of doing that, they're going to break down the internet and do the same thing. You got to buy a package deal.
Yeah, with net neutrality, you're looking at like having to buy access for Yahoo, for Google, for Gmail even. I mean, you're looking at now, email basically has, in a way, it didn't really take place of snail mail. It kind of supplemented snail mail or complemented it. I won't say that it actually took anything away from it. It was either supplemented or complemented, depending on how you look at it. It did that to it, and right now you don't have to pay anything for it. Well, with net neutrality going away, they possibly could start charging you per email to be sent out. That's what net neutrality can actually allow for. Not having net neutrality could actually allow for. So that's something that you've got to think heavily about. It's not just that. I mean, when you look at gamers, there was a prime example. You download 100. There's sometimes when you buy a game, you stick the disc in, you still have to download 100 gigs of the game. Well, if they start putting more tight restrictions on data caps, well, then you're looking at now for your month, you already hit a tenth of your data cap right then and there.
Do you wish to continue playing? Click here.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just one of those things where, different things add up to this, and it could affect gamers in so many different ways. I mean, most games require you to be online now, so when you're streaming like that, they could put data caps on that, slow down the speeds. When you start looking at that, now you're looking at latency issues, you're looking at ping rates that just totally make gaming just terrible at that point if you're doing that. So net neutrality is a big deal, so I'm a big advocate for net neutrality. So
trust in the people. If it gets bad, the people will find a way to do their own thing.
I'll give you all an example along those same lines. I've been with DirecTV now for several years, and I couldn't watch the World Series last year or earlier this year because it was on Fox. I had to stream it on my computer. Well, out at my hunting camp, I put up a satellite the other day, and I get 2 channels, WLBT and Fox. I can pull Fox out of the air for free, but DirecTV won't let me have it at my house.
Yeah,
it's because they want that more money.
It's just an example of how convoluted things have gotten with these big corporations and what is essentially free.
Yeah, exactly.
And net neutrality would fall along the same lines as that, just internet-wise.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So,
all right, what else? Gaming.
So the other big thing, too, this is not directly gaming related, but this actually will affect the gaming community. I think it will have a big effect. Disney bought Fox. They bought their TV rights. They bought their movie rights. They bought large chunks of it. They bought it for $52.4 billion. They spent $52.4 billion for this. So the implications of that is, most of us out there, most of y'all listening, I'm going to call you geeks, because if you're not a geek and you don't believe you're a geek, then you're just lying to yourself.
But this is funny, but didn't Fox own Star Wars already?
Okay, no. This is
they could have just bought Fox and not have to spend billions on Star Wars.
So this is the funny thing. So Fox never owned Star Wars. What happened was when Lucas made the first Star Wars, he needed somebody to distribute it, put it out. And so he gave the distribution rights to Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, which is the original trilogy, to Fox to distribute it. So they had the distribution rights. So that means Lucas can't do anything with it, with that copy that he gave them. Hence why there were all the enhanced copies with the CGI and everything, because now he can distribute that, because he didn't put that under the umbrella of 4, 5, and 6. His distribution rights were very specific to that original copy.
And he supposedly destroyed those originals, too.
That is incorrect.
That's what he said.
He said that, but it's incorrect. They actually have the original copies.
I got some in my house too.
They had so Fox actually still has the original copies. They still have it. They put it out whenever they want. But since Lucas made partnerships with other TV stations to show the enhanced copies, all the ones with all the junky CGI, and trying to cover up some of the practical effects that he did so well. Exactly.
But we'll have to talk about that.
So now Disney has the rights to those movies. So what I'm predicting, and this is my prediction, is tomorrow, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, hits theaters. It's going to be an awesome one. It's the highest rated movie of the Star Wars franchise on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 96% rating out of all of the ratings. The next closest is only 92%. So that's actually a 4% gap for those movies. Actually a big deal.
How they seen it already?
So it's a big deal. So it looks like it's going to be the movie to go see, and I'm actually going to go see it tomorrow. I'm not going to wait. But what I'm predicting is in a couple months, when Episode 8 drops on DVD and Blu-ray, I predict that they're going to release the original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, in its original state,
awesome.
Its original theatrical state.
So
I'm predicting that. I'm not sure it's going to happen. They might hold off until 9 releases as well, which is roughly 3-ish years from now, which it would be dropping on Blu-ray. So, it could happen, it couldn't, but I think that's what's going to happen. The other big implications is now Disney has all the rights to X-Men, and partial rights to Fantastic Four. They don't have full rights because it's a really weird kind of situation with Fantastic Four. Fox had the rights for them, but not the distribution rights. Or I think they had the distribution rights and not the actual rights for them. It's kind of a weird twist. Another company actually had the proprietary rights, and Fox had distribution rights. That's what it was. So now Disney can distribute it, but they can't make a movie. So it's kind of one of those catch-22 things. It's a really weird situation. But what this does mean now is all of these games that are coming out under the Marvel banner can actually house, X-Men and things like that. You can actually start seeing Wolverine. You can see Wolverine versus Hulk, that kind of stuff going on, not only in the movies, but now in the games as well. Because now all those rights are combined as well. And it actually is going to give us better movies, better gamings, and things like that. Because you got to think about it. The Marvel Universe in comics, when Civil War happened, the Civil War that we saw in the theaters is not the Civil War you saw in the comics. Completely different. The X-Men said, no, we're not taking a stand in it. We're staying neutral in it. They were actually involved. Spider-Man was actually the central figure in that one, not the whole argument between Tony and Cap, which it was the argument. But the whole thing is Spider-Man actually sided with Tony at first, unmasked himself, showed him to everybody, and then he was like, wait, this isn't right. I'm going to side with Cap, because understand what Cap's trying to protect.
If I'm not mistaken, Wolverine's first appearance was in an Incredible Hulk comic.
Yeah, exactly. So now we can actually start having that in gaming again, as we can actually start seeing that, those comics playing in gaming. So it's be really cool. It's a really cool situation. It's a really interesting time for us in our movies and in our gaming and in our comics. So there's a real interesting twist there. So that's the other big thing that I was following. The other thing is one other thing that I want to bring up that I thought was pretty interesting. So most of y'all have probably heard of PlayerUnknown. PlayerUnknown was a person, but now it's a group developing a game called Battlegrounds. It was in long-term beta access on the PC, and it just recently released into a beta-esque form. It's not a full game yet. They're still building on it and trying to develop and make it better. But now it's for the Xbox One. I know I don't game on Xbox One. I know Hollywood doesn't, and I'm not sure if Coach does anymore or not. So you got 3 people here that don't do it, but if you do have an Xbox, go check out this game. This is an indie guy developing a really awesome game. What it is it's kind of like if you had Call of Duty, and you put like 50 people in a arena and had a shootout until the last person was surviving. And it's a really cool format. You can kill people with cars, with boats, with guns, fist, trees. I mean, whatever. It's a really cool environment thing that you can have environment effects on it and everything. And what's cool about it is every time somebody dies, the arena shrinks. So it makes it smaller to keep everybody getting closer to each other to actually be able to keep the action going. So it doesn't ever really get stale. Really interesting game. Really interesting concept. One game that Coach is playing right now, it's next game after it. He's playing Shadows of War right now, which is not Shadows of War, Shadows of Mordor. He's playing the first of the Middle Earth Shadows series. And once he gets to Shadows of War actually dropped an arena just recently as well. So you kind of have that whole thing where you can actually start dropping your guys that you recruit in there to fight. So that'll be a kind of interesting twist to that as well.
The first one was a Xbox exclusive.
Right now, it's the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is only on PC and Xbox One. They've been developing it on PC, and they migrated over to Xbox One. I think that it will eventually come over to PS4, but I'm not sure about that. But even so, if you play Xbox and you listen to us, which I hope you do, go out and grab the game and check it out. It's a really neat game. I support indie developers. You can ask Hollywood all the time. I rant about one game that I love. I bring it up fairly often, is Don't Starve. I love the game. I actually got it on my PS Vita now, and I'm sitting here playing it as I'm going to bed even, because it's just such a fun little creative indie game, and indie people are what keeps the gaming movement going. Keep giving money to these indies so they can grow it, and we actually can have more diversity in gaming.
Yeah, I've been playing Path of Exile for about the past 4 or 5 months. It reminds me a lot of Diablo 3, but it's made by Grinding Gear Games, and it's totally free. It took like 2 hours to download, but they ask for nothing other than donations, and they
not even during the game. There's no paywalls or anything, or
they have the cosmetic microtransactions, but to play the game, it's essentially free to you. And I got to
awesome.
level 87, and I kind of got it on pause right now, but. They just released a new expansion. I mean, they're getting money from somewhere. I guess, players donate to them or something. Or maybe it's just out of the goodness of their heart.
Transactions, though, man. I mean, I hate to say it, but like they've reached, what was it, the $100 billion mark or something like that.
Yeah, they're making stupid money off of it. It's crazy.
Some people are buying it, and so that counts for, that's the cell phones and all that, but. I mean, dude, when you're making $1 million a day, it's hard to turn it down. You just got to get that whale that spends $10,000 a day, like the dude on Clash of Clans. Even the other people that spent money on there was shunning him for spending $10,000 a day on Clash of Clans. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, I was thinking about that today. I got to I'm on like 785 Candy Crush level, and it's this really hard level, and I was like one block from finishing it. And I lost all my men, and it's like, do you wish to continue for $1.99? And I'm thinking to myself,
oh, just $2, I'll finish it.
I make that much money in like 30 seconds.
I know, but it's just
I can finish this board. It's so in your face and so convenient that it's easy to see how it's gotten so big, so out of control.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was going to say, it's a poison in the game, and you've heard me say that a million times if you listen to this podcast, but it's also, and again, we might have to do a podcast on this. There's so many subjects, but when you're playing it, so once you kind of bust that bubble of, I paid any little bit, then it just loses the fun factor.
We called it tapping the vein in Everquest because I bought a sword off of eBay, an in-game sword, so I could join a raiding guild. And all my friends were like, "Oh, you done tapped the vein." That's it. And
there's a guy that brings up a good example, Batman Dobbins on YouTube. I like his videos, but. He talks about he used to go to Chuck E. Cheese all the time and play skeet ball or whatever, and get the tickets or you get tickets out, and then you're earning them. But then at some point, Chuck E. Cheese says, "Oh, if you just want to buy one, it's $1 for a plastic spider ring or whatever it would be," and then once he kind of knew that. It wasn't it's no fun to go to Chuck E. Cheese and try to earn anything anymore because you're just wasting your time. Why am I spending $5 worth of tokens or whatever when I can just spend $1 on whatever I want and go in there and buy it and leave? It's the same thing for gaming. It's all about the experience. Nothing comes from gaming. I mean, of course, there's professionals and you can get some online items that sell for a bunch of money or whatever the case. But just as the standard video game, it's just the satisfaction of solving it or doing something. There's no tangible asset to be gained.
Right.
So you're spending money for nothing. You're killing that experience.
So I agree with you, but I'm going to throw it from the other aspect because I had a buddy that actually made a living off of selling WoW characters.
No,
He'd get them up to max level, sell them, and people would buy them. See, the thing is, for us, we grew up in the age of play the game to get to the end to figure it all out. You didn't have the internet to look it up. You didn't have any way to do this other than doing that unless you got Nintendo Power delivered to your house that possibly had the strategy guide for that one game you were working on. And it didn't always happen that way. Nowadays people are like, let me have the satisfaction of already being at the end without having to do anything. They want the instant gratification, and that's what that's what microtransactions bring. So microtransactions bring instant gratification. Right. They bring everything that gamers want, that instant gratification. They want to know that they can go in and win a game. They want to know they can go in and beat it. I mean,
they're not beating it or winning. They're just buying it. You might as well just have.
They're buying the end. Yeah,
when you come into the fact of you buy a game for the experience. When it comes to the guy selling or building WoW characters and selling them, he might as well build rocking chairs in his garage and sell them. It's the exact same experience.
It is.
That's what experience he bought into. Except for you don't have to pay $20 a month for it. I mean, because you're just making something and selling it. And I know exactly what you're saying. So there are people like that do that, but my point is the gaming experience is what you're paying for, and then once you pay more for that, not necessarily stuff that cosmetic that you can only get cosmetic. I mean, that seems to be that gray area that gamers have accepted, and I'll even accept it if they stay true to their word, like somebody like Bungie and Destiny that said, hey, we're only going to do cosmetics, so your downloadable content will be free. And so, okay, yeah, that's fine. And of course, they're never releasing downloadable content. Yeah, they got updates, and you get a little sparrow racing and stupid stuff like that. You never got a quarterly, expansion like what everybody knew that's what they were talking about, and they just lied again. Multiple reasons they lied, or multiple instances they have lied and whatever, destroyed their fan base trust. And people are even asking for refunds on Xbox and PlayStation, by the way, for their download.
They actually got refunds, but PlayStation and Xbox both have ruled that for the fact that Destiny actually took away something that you paid for to begin with. Because yes, I understand, like, and in the Destiny communities, they're talking about, all the other DLCs did that too. It's like, no, they didn't. They did it to an extent, but not the way that this one happened. This one actually blocked you from the content that you used to have access to. They raised the raid level. Well, last time when DLCs came out on Destiny 1, you got a new raid. You couldn't access the new raid, but you could still access the old raid. This one, they had the old raid. They moved it up in levels to where you couldn't access it anymore, even if you already paid for it. Now what they're doing is they're backing it down to where you can access it, but you can't access the prestige levels. Those are considered the game end of game content that come with only DLCs and being up to date in the game. So they're kind of playing this double-edged sword, very gray area on that too as well. So
just like the rest of the world, they're getting to where you can throw your weight around with a little money.
Yeah,
and I don't want my gaming experience to be limited to how much money I'm willing to spend.
Yeah, it needs to be based on skill
and
strategy.
Yeah. You shouldn't be able to buy bullets that do twice as much damage as my bullets. That's where it's going.
Ultimately, what it is. Exactly.
And that's what happened to EA with their FIFA 18, because people are still boycotting FIFA 18 because of that, because you could actually pay to get better characters that could help you win the game easier. So that was a big thing in the EA. That's why EA is getting hit really hard for a lot of their stuff.
So you might have read this in your news study or whatever too, but there's a guy, and I don't know his name, but he's a very good track record. I think he posted to Reddit. I know he did at one point on Reddit, and it got downvoted to oblivion, but it actually turned out to be true because he was predicting something on a game. He's got very good track record with Battlefront. It was Battlefield 1 or whatever. So now he's talking about Battlefield 3. Or excuse me, not Battlefield 3, Bad Company 3.
Yeah, it's Bad Company 3. And I actually posted something on our Facebook page about that.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it. It said that, they're doing no microtransactions in it. Dude, that is unreal. I want to buy that game just to support, because it's no microtransactions. I very well
Bad Company was a fun game anyway.
I enjoyed it too.
I mean, it's just hilarious because the guys, the characters in there were actually hilarious, had great interactions with each other, and it was a fun game.
It's tough to... Go ahead.
I was going to say they pushed it a little bit. The single player experience wasn't as good as I would have liked. That's why I like all the Call of Duty games. Is they're predominantly multiplayer online shooters, but the story is usually good.
They got an epic story.
The Bad Company story was pretty bad.
It was bad, but it was funny, and too, it's funny how bad it was too.
Maybe that was their point.
Yeah, I think that's what they were trying to do with it, was like, hey, look, these are guys of idiots out here. Basically, it was their version of like the A-Team, but not as good as the A-Team. So
B-Team.
I'd probably say C or D team on that one. They were pretty funny on the.
But a game that comes out with no microtransactions, I would highly encourage everybody to buy it. But I mean, it's just like you got games like Destiny, and I hate to keep bringing it up. I don't even say any game. I'm just trying to think on the spot here, but we'll just use Destiny. So you pay $60, you're done with the game in 2 weeks, the vanilla game, and Destiny 2. And so, but then you got games that it's the exact amount that are Fallout 4, that are Witcher 3. I mean, these experiences are. I'm
GTA
almost like
5.
Yeah. But I'm like, Witcher 3, holy cow, man, the amount of content in that game and the amount of time that's spent in there. I'm like, dude, you only charge $60 for this? This is ridiculous. I mean, it's unreal. I bought all the expansions. I hadn't even touched them just because I wanted to give them more money for for it.
Yeah. I'll tell
crazy.
One thing that I think is worth mentioning is the microtransactions. They often come up in single-player games, where that's the individual's experience. It's not, affecting us.
Right.
But in the multiplayer games, sure, there are microtransactions, but there's also a third party that develops, like online communities, like you come to this website, tell me what you want, PayPal me the money, I'll meet you in game and give it to you. That's not the game developer's fault. That is just people being people.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that happens anyway.
Well, I mean, that happened in Destiny. Destiny, the people were paying.
In Destiny.
Well, this is what people were paying for in Destiny. They were paying for people to carry them through Trials of Osiris, Trials of the Nine, the raids, different things. They were actually paying for those experiences.
That's just people being people.
Exactly, and that's what Coach was saying, is you get that enterprising people doing that, and that in a way is a term of microtransactions. It's just not hitting the developer's pockets, it's hitting the consumer's pockets.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that way. One of the things that I thought that somebody brought up a very good point with Battlefront 2 is that they need to have two different servers or two different play styles. If you spend money on the game, then you go to the play with everybody else that spent money. If you did not, then you play with everybody that did not. That was a kind of cool idea, because that would keep everybody, see how much money gets spent at that point. They would never do that, because the guy that spends money has to go play with everybody else. Then it ultimately becomes whoever can spend the most money wins.
There's no advantage. Yeah, I remember back in the EverQuest days, it would just be, you would go to this was so old. Hotmail was still big then.
Yeah.
You would be like, I'll mail you cash in the mail. You meet me in game. Drop this item on the ground, and I'll pick it up. It's. I guess it's free market enterprise on a very small scale, but that's just what people are going to do to get what they want.
Yep.
It's no different than us getting the guy to buy us beer in high school at the gas station.
Yeah, very true.
You find what you want, and then whatever.
You find a way to get what you want and what you need.
Exactly, whatever means.
So that does give a whole different experience if you have to pay for, once you start paying for a game. I've brought this up for that Underground Empire game on the phone that I used to play, where you start paying for this experience, and the next time you're playing against somebody else that's paid, so then you're paying against somebody else. Just like the leveling thing that we're going to talk about, how you just level up, then you go fight stronger monsters, level up, go fight stronger monsters. It's kind of the same thing over and over. But anyway, so we beat, every episode we beat microtransactions to death, but I mean, dude, it is serious, and I think the community's finally waking up. This is just the hot topic in the news.
It is.
So,
well, I think you bring up a good point to actually bring us into our next segment, so we don't beat the microtransactions to death this time too. Doing the whole fighting and leveling, I think that leads us into Dragon's Quest right there pretty easily.
Yep. So Dragon's Quest, NES. So it's actually called Dragon's Warrior in America, Dragon Quest in Japan. So at this point, nobody's ever heard of an RPG. And I was talking to a coach yesterday about it a little bit. Dungeons and Dragons is out, so those type of RPGs where you just talk about what you're doing had come out, and then it's just a matter of time until the programmers get a hold of something similar and start programming the computers. So anyway, they're programming all these different computers and doing little modern RPGs with basically rolling a dice, random numbers, pseudo-random or whatever, in computer codes. And whatever. So those have been lost in history, and there's a lot of what I think it was late 70s, early 80s is when you started seeing. It was late 70s when you started seeing some actual software come out with. I used to know the first one. Ultima was the one that everybody started catching on. Wizardry.
Zork was the original text-based.
Oh yeah, from Big.
Well, also too, let's not sell short, the whole D&D, because most people.
I don't mean to sell it short either. I don't mean.
Well, I'm just saying, instead of just rolling so fast through this, given the history, I was a big D&D player, so that's why I like, don't want to short it too much. But I mean, D&D was the opening to the video game thing. It was, depending on how you played it, either was tabletop role playing or it was mental imagery role playing. Sorry, getting a little ahead of myself in my head trying to speak about it. Where basically you had dice that you rolled for your attacks, your hit points, all that stuff. It was a die-based game, so it was the original random numbers system. And so now, when you go into programming, they instituted that style of and that idea into the gaming. And like Coach was saying, Zork, that game right there, it actually was based in the background of the programming was based on random numbers. It was a random number generator as well.
That's the first time, just off the top of my head, that people actually preceded computers. Because essentially all gaming is a program generating randomness. You swing this sword, how much damage do you do? Because it's not going to be the same every time. And you just used to do it by hand, and now it's done for us. But that's pretty ingenuitive on our part back in the 70s.
Yeah. Well, people got lazy. They got tired of throwing them dice across the table, losing them, and all that. They're like, "How can we make this easier on ourselves?"
But that natural 20 used to look so good.
Oh, that natural 20 looks so good. When you see that 20 come up on that D20, you're like, "Ah!" But also too on the side, that natural 1 looked just as terrible.
you chop your leg off.
Oh God, I can't tell you how many times I've lost limbs because of a natural 1. I mean, it's just. That, or I end up throwing my sword in the back of somebody's head that's my buddy,
We used to, our DM used to be more than generous to us, or our party would die in the first adventure every time.
Oh, yeah. Our DM was very generous, too.
He thought it was supposed to happen like that.
but video games are unforgiving.
But they are unforgiving.
One of the cool things, and I know that Coach is like this too, and you too, Kleer, that really is attractive to these role-playing games for me is kind of what Gygax and Arneson did when they created D&D. They kind of took from, where they were playing other games like Tactics 2 and all these other board games where it's just moving around large armies. They decided to kind of focus in on each individual character. Mm-hmm. So that would comprise the army, right? So, that's where you start getting their individual. Of course, it just evolved. The characters did, but you got a warrior. Okay, what's his story? Where is he from? Okay, now you got a rogue. This guy's shady, whatever. Then you started getting into clerics and hybrids like paladins or stuff like that. So and what abilities do they bring into fight? Not just their personality, but different abilities. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where that D&D came from, and it's such a great thing. I love the characterization of these things. That's kind of part of my RPG. Why I'm such a fan of them is because you can. You kind of want to feel like you kind of beat the system. I'm going to tweak this guy's strength or his dexterity or whatever for my play style, and then go in there and handle it. But see how easy it is to talk about these things these days. We'd never heard of this when Dragon Warrior came out, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody knew what it was. And so it came out in 1986, May 27th, 1986.
In Japan.
In Japan. When did it come out in...
It came out in 89 in North America. I don't have the exact date, but it was 89 in North America. Okay, yeah. It came out in 89. So... at this point, and I remember getting the game. Okay, so they had to simplify it, and it started picking up in Japan, Dragon Quest, and say, hey, we need to bring this to America. They know nothing about it. So, again, me and Coach were talking about this, and we've mentioned this on a podcast before, and I actually posted it on the Facebook site. But I remember it. I got it for Christmas. My mother and father had hid it when it came in the mail, because they just went and got the mail. You just trust, you go get your mail now like it's nothing. But they, you had to go through the parents back in the day if it was around Christmas, I got nothing in the mail all of a sudden because it's going to be wrapped up and be sent like it's a present that they went and picked out. But and it wasn't until I got this game, Dragon Warrior. What is this? What is this game? It's a yellow box, And then reading through Nintendo Power that they had with it, you start seeing that, hey, this was included. Nintendo Power sent out. That was the way to get Americans into it, was we're going to send it out for free. With Nintendo Power, we're going to include strategy guides. We're going to include maps. They had a little card, and
to try to explain this thing to you, how this works. But I mean, I'm just like you guys did, and I'll let you guys tell your experience of it. But then you pop the game in, and you're like, what is going on with this text? And it's just like, this is not I had no idea what's going on. You walk outside, you get killed, and you do it again. Yeah. You walk outside, you get killed, and you're like, what is going on? You ended up shelving the game for a while, for probably a year or so, till you start reading about it, and you go, oh, wait a minute, this is how this game works. And then you start playing it, and that's when I got into it and loved it.
So something really interesting about the game that as I'm reading some of the articles about it is it's actually one of the first games that's a battery-backed RAM save game system. So most of the games, like with Mega Man, for you to save the game, you get to the end of the board, you get a password to put in the next time you play so you can start up there. Well, in Japan, that's how Dragon Quest was. You had your password save system, so you get the password, you put it in, and that's where you could go to that point in the game. This was one of the first that actually saved the game at those specific points on the cartridge. So now you have it saved on the cartridge, you plug it back in, you can actually start where you were left off like that without having to put a password in.
You always start at the king, but Zelda came out in '86. It had a battery backup.
Did it have a battery backup?
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Doing all my research for this podcast, that never even crossed my mind, but that is like a landmark moment in gaming, was saving, because you could save, then go do something crazy, and if it didn't work out, you could do it again. And I think people abuse that mechanic, but that is a great point you bring up. That changed everything, because in D&D you die, you're dead. That's it.
Yeah. Well, up to this point they're playing up to mid '80s. Arcades are real popular and stuff, so they're playing. They're playing to suck quarters out of the players. They're killing them, and you're just there for whatever 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and you're going home. But now, when you're at home, you got, you want more in-depth experiences, because you can play whenever you want to, and that's kind of what Zelda brought. But I mean, but that's a good point too, Kleer, that the Japanese version did have a password system, and they wanted to simplify it for Americans and added that save feature.
But that does bring cheating into the equation. Like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, everybody went straight to Tyson by the password. To actually, play through the game and get there is a different story.
But see, back then too, you put that password in, and you didn't good enough to get there, you're knocked out before. You don't know what to expect, and it hits you one time, you're done. And it's just So those games too, you had to get a certain skill level too. I mean, it was like we talked about before. There's nothing back in the day to buy a Nintendo game, and you don't get to play it all because you can't get past whatever,
Just stop.
And you just thought, I'm at level 4. That's my claim to fame. I got past Soda Pop Sawinski, who I can't get past now. I got to Tyson. I've never finished that game. I never beat Tyson. I've gone the distance with him, but he always wins in the end, the decision.
Oh, if it goes to decision, he's gonna win.
No, sometimes people win, but I've seen people, they knock him out too. TKO.
I've seen knockouts. I've seen TKOs. And I've seen straight up knockouts of them. There are some videos out there of where people actually knocked out Tyson. I was like, oh my gosh, that's pretty impressive there.
I could beat Tyson, but I couldn't beat Super Macho Man. I always had to put the
oh gosh, yeah, he was a tough one.
And just skip him.
Get to Macho Man and just reset and put the password in.
Third ball bull.
Yeah, but anyway, so what did you, when you first got it? I remember you said something about it, Coach. You first. What did you? Because you were talking about it to me the other day. Did you do the same thing?
Yeah, I did exactly what you said. I remember the other night. I knew I had maps because I was watching the playthrough on YouTube, and I remembered those dungeons and how hard they were. All you could see was like a square around you and a black screen, unless you used a torch or whatever. And I remember the map had the entire dungeon there, so all you had to do was, keep, aware of where you were by square, and you could move around. And I couldn't, because I knew I didn't draw them, and the internet was in its infancy back then, so I know I didn't get them on the internet, but they came with that offer you mentioned from Nintendo Power. They pretty much mailed you a map of the game and all the dungeons, which in a way, trivialized it, other than the random aspect of it. But like you said, I started playing get killed, respawn at the beginning. And I was like,
yep.
And this is coming off of, Mario, like side-scrolling, like you die, but eventually you can beat it because it's obvious what you have to do. You have to jump this span. You have to, not get killed by this Koopa. But Dragon Warrior, you had no idea what you were supposed to do. And
right.
I just was like, I can't do this. I'm gonna go back to playing my easy games. And it sat around, and I want to say I read Dungeons and Dragons books. What was the name of that? Crap! It was the Dragonlance Chronicles.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was a good set of books.
It got me like back into the genre. Like I wanted to make it happen. I wanted to figure it out, and eventually I got it. And that, to me, all role-playing games, when you get to the point to where you can just kill the same stuff over and over and over until you level up to progress, it's a starting point, Like, you got 30 minutes before school. Okay, well, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to kill slimes over and over and over and get some gold. I'm going to get some experience. And then when I come home from school today, I'll be more powerful, be able to buy new equipment. And that was the part of the game that, because you didn't level up in Mario. You didn't level up in Zelda. You were yourself. You have to beat the whole game with this same dude. And Dragon Warrior, you became more and more powerful until the end. You could one-shot the enemies that were killing you.
Or anything. Yeah.
So my first experience with this was, both of these guys, they played it, before I came around. I didn't actually meet Hollywood until late 89, early 90. That's when we met, because I didn't actually move to the area where we grew up at until August of 89. And so I hadn't heard of Dragon Warrior at this point. I didn't know about it. And Hollywood had it, and he actually let me borrow it. And how am I remembering this? I have no idea, because I really thought that these brain cells that housed this information were killed long ago. But I remember it, and I remember getting the game and like saying, "How do you play this game?" Because it's it was such a new thing, new concept to me. And he's like, "Oh, well, check this out. You kill these slimes, you go this way, and you can find this other bigger thing to kill. Go try to kill it." Little did I know that was like he knew how to get to the last big boss dragon. There was like a nasty dragon in this one little cave that you walked out of. And I go there, and there's this nasty dragon, and he one-hit kills me every time. And I'm like a little level 2 or 3 trying to do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible game. Why did you do this to me? He's like, no, you do all this other stuff instead. And so that was my first experience with it. And I thought it was funny because I remember the first time playing it, I got so frustrated that I put it down and took it over to his house and said, I can't play this anymore. But then he was like, no, I'm messing with you. Here's how you really do it. So that was one of the little things
I told you. You got to go get that bamboo stick. That's the
something
most powerful weapon.
Something
and
like
he
that.
Was beating slimes with it.
Yeah, it was something like that. So it was pretty wild.
Hearing that Dragon Warrior music on that YouTube video was epic. You might as well just gave me a shot of nostalgia straight into the vein.
Yeah, it's awesome. I couldn't get mine to work. I tried to play it. I think the battery pack's out. Sometimes that'll mess up the game.
Yeah,
I've been that way with all games, like Mega Man music, Metroid music, Mario. Look up all that stuff, man.
Have you heard Super Guitar Bros on YouTube? Look up Super Guitar Bros. There's 2 dudes that play acoustics to Castlevania music. Dude, it is awesome. I mean, if you are in a bad mood or something, just upset over something, just put that in there. It's just so relaxing. I want to watch it now. I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe they got some new ones out. They do Ninja Gaiden. They do Sonic. They used to do medleys for the games, and then now they do last ones they do like a couple of songs or one song. And it's like, But anyway, yeah, the Castlevania one's real good. But anyway, Dragon Warrior. Back to Dragon Warrior 1. Like we said, 89.
89.
So then Dragon Warrior 2 comes out. It's a direct sequel to Dragon Warrior 1. There's 4 total on NES. And Dragon Warrior 3 is a prequel to Dragon Warrior. So it actually goes Dragon Warrior 3, Dragon Warrior, and then Dragon Warrior 2. Dragon Warrior 4 came out late into the lifestyle. I think it was like 94 or something, late into the lifespan of the NES. It's worth a lot of money for a video game or an NES game, $60 or so, because nobody picked it up. Anything that's late in the life cycle is usually more expensive because nobody has it. But it has nothing to do with any of the stories. It's just they had several different characters that you just kind of switch stories between.
I listened to y'all's podcast the other night when you were talking about Zelda, how Zelda 2 took a perfect game and essentially ruined it by changing the format. That's kind of the way I feel about Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior 2 was just pretty much new content on the same platform. And I don't remember it as vividly as I do the first one. I could probably go watch the video on YouTube and remember it, but that's what I think is missing in video games these days. If you got a format that works, just leave it alone. Like, make a new Call of Duty. Don't change the game. Just make it be in a different setting, a different story. And people,
not space.
I think people just lack the creative ability to do that anymore. They want to throw more graphics at you. They want to throw more kill streaks at you. They don't want to throw more content at you.
Yeah. But so the story is let me try to remember this here. That the Kingdom of Alfgard. So it was it's just a kingdom. Everybody was living happy or whatever, and they had the ball of light that kind of just keep everybody happy, and it flourished. This kingdom flourished, and whatever the case. One guy shunned that ball of light, and he wandered away. So he lived in these caves. So one day he was kind of just searching the caves, found a dragon, and he thought the dragon was going to eat him. Well, the dragon kneeled down to him. So he started having power of that dragon. Turns out that guy is a dragon. He's the Dragon Lord. And so he eventually goes and steals the ball of light and runs off. So now we're talking about Dragon Warrior 3, where Erdrick, who's the hero, goes out there and tries to find the Dragon Lord. Since he took the ball of light, there starts to be monsters populating the kingdom. Erdrick tries to go kill him. Never does, but finds out where he lives. And also writes a couple of hints or whatever. It's just in stone tablets or whatever, for whoever to come upon and find it and kill the Dragon Warrior. Here's what you're going to need, and so on and so forth. So that's when we start off with Dragon Warrior 1 that we're just talking about with your hero. Now, this is funny. You name your own hero. Everybody remembers that. But you know what's unique about that? I didn't know this until I started researching this.
You could name it after the game.
What?
You could name it after the game, like you could name it Enix or something, and it would give you special powers. But of course, back then you had to just guess at that. Nobody.
Yeah, I didn't know you could name it Enix. Yeah. But you can. But of course, I know you can name it. But yeah, that's whatever you name it, depending on the characters that you pick, changes your stats at the start.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, yeah. So I read that. That's pretty cool. And so anyway, you pick your guy, and you go talk to the king. He tells you 3 chests in there. I'm gonna go off the top of my head. It's gold. I believe it's 100 gold. I don't know, maybe 120. The copper sword was 180, so you couldn't get the copper sword. You got a club, which was 60, and you got some. You could either buy either leather armor or clothes and a shield. And you always got the shield. There's only 3 shields in the game. But anyway, you go to the town of Breckenary to get that stuff. And so...
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Did you name your character Marcus?
No. I named him... I think I named him... I know I named him Erdrick at one time, because I was like, that's the guy. I didn't know the story. Mm-hmm. I was just reading the strategy guide, and I'm keep seeing his name. I said, oh, that's my guy. Apparently, that's the hero.
I named my character Mitch, just because back then I don't think I had a creative bone in my body. And even now, games, I'll name myself something, elvish or fantasy oriented. But yeah. I'm sorry, that just popped in my mind.
No, yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember. I actually have no idea what I named him. I know I named him Erdrick, but I don't think I ever named him Marcus.
But that was the first game where like you were the game. It's not Mega Man, it's not Mario, it's not Metroid or Rygar. It's you're the person that the game is talking to.
Yeah.
Mitch, art thou tired?
But so one interesting thing about this game too is there's really not a whole lot of guidance, which we kind of realize that's why they sent the strategy guide. But what I mean is, it's like kill Dragon Lord. That's your quest. That's the whole. So that's like getting, Witcher 3, and then it just says kill, the final guy. Like okay, what do I need to do? And you go on a little merry adventure. But this game, so you go to Brecon Area and get your gear, and then there's a little. You get you go into this little cave in the desert right off about the northwest of the castle, and there's no point in going in there other than to get the chest that has Erdrick's tablet, and just tells you what you're going to need. The raindrop. You need a token. I don't think it says that, but it's the raindrop, the sunstone, stuff like that to make the bridge. Mm-hmm. But so you're just wandering around gaining levels. And there was no barrier. You could walk straight to Dragon Lord, theoretically, right? But the barrier was the enemies. You would get killed if you tried to, if you weren't powerful enough. So that was the invisible wall to keep you where you needed to be.
Well, before we get too far there, just because I saw the plot, how we were talking about the plot was real simple, and in this article that I'm reading, the plot basically is written in one line. It says, Dragon Warrior's plot is a simplistic medieval, rescue the princess, slay the Dragon King, and get the Orb of Light story. That's the entire plot of it.
Yep, and so
that's what you're given, and that's it.
Yep, and so that's what...
No waypoints, no mini-map.
That's it.
No zones.
No.
You see, but... so that's where, Erdrick, there was a prophet or something that said, hey, the descendant of Erdrick is going to slay the Dragon Lord, but even at this point, everybody was like, Erdrick didn't even exist, and blah, blah, blah. All the townspeople didn't even care. That's just, we don't believe in all that. It had been so long. But anyway, so that's what he does. He goes and he just, slays the Dragon Warrior, which we'll talk about, or the Dragon Lord and everything, and then the king says, well, I'll give you my kingdom. And he says, no, I'll go find my own kingdom. And so that's where Dragon Warrior 2 starts off. You find your own kingdom. But
it was interesting how you could, and I'd forgotten about it till I watched that YouTube video, but everybody in the game had something to contribute. Like, there was a few people that just say, I have nothing to say to you, but almost everybody had information relevant to the story.
Right.
And nowadays you just click through dialogue because it doesn't really mean anything.
Exactly, and that's really unique because it's like most games, especially nowadays, like you're saying there, you've got to play. When you play it, you walk up to somebody, everybody has something to say, whether it's relevant to you or not. They might say, "Oh, the sun is shining brightly today," and all this random gibberish. Whereas in Dragon Warrior, they're like, "Yeah, we got nothing to say to you."
It's like that guy on Zelda 2 where you walk into his house and he just says, "I am error." And like they just wasted all that programming and there's no point in it.
Yeah.
Nobody figures it out. Just like, what do you do?
But some of the people in Dragon Warrior, they would be like, go to this fountain, walk 4 steps south, 3 steps east, you will find such and such. And that was crucial to completing the game. Mm-hmm. You had to do it. So that was like the first time I think I ever took notes playing a game.
Yeah. And so this very primitive. It's there's 5 dungeons, 5 towns. That's it. And it's just that's just so primitive in today's standard. And a lot of people were kind of talking about even back then that there's no replay value because you had to do everything in the game to finish the game. Mm-hmm. But man, I've replayed it several times. Tried to get to level 30. But anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead. I'll talk about that in a minute, the story. But so this introduced, HP, so hit points, MP, magic points, and I believe it had the strength. Did it have dexterity?
I don't remember the specific stats, but that was the first time I ever remember.
Hang on, I gotta.
wisdom, intelligence. The different aspects of
Yeah.
Nobody knows what Mario's intelligence was or his strength.
Yeah, you can't.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, in your screen, what you would see, this is actually in the fight screen. Your stats were your level, your hit point, your magic points, your guild, and your experience. And then, of course, you had the command screen of fight, run, spell, or item. And it says a slime draws near command. And so, what do you want your character to do? And it was very literal. What do you want to do? So.
Yeah, but there's a status you can click. Okay, yeah, no, it had. I don't think that's it. That's not it.
The hero's status window is shown whenever he stops moving. Display his current experience level, the amount of hit points, magic points, and experience gold and experience points.
If you click the command, it's got talk. If you click the command, it's got talk, spell, status, item, equip, door, and all that blah blah blah. But if you go to the status part right there, it will pull up something, and I'm just trying to find it. I can't find it. It'll tell you exactly what it would display, because it gave you how much you hit for, but it also your critical chance. I think that was, I don't know if it was dexterity or whatever, but whatever. It introduced that kind of stuff. You level up as you get those stats improved to do better.
Well, it gave you your basic statistics like you had in D&D, because D&D had that same stat style as well, where you had all your strength, your dexterity, your
constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that tells you how well you can do different things throughout all those.
Determines the dice you roll, which in the game it's doing essentially the same stuff behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here, but yeah. So a lot of the items that you get are just they didn't really I want to see if I can name all the weapons. So the first one was a bamboo, then it was the club, then you moved it to the copper sword, then a battle axe, broadsword, flame sword, and Erdrick swords. There's 7, and you could save gold. There's nothing to keep you from saving gold to just go get the battle axe or whatever before you don't have to acquire them in that order. Some of them you can't find, like Erdrick sword you had to find. Same way for his armor. They gave you different abilities to where you can walk and you would heal as you walk. Magic armor did the same thing.
Walk through that poison.
The poison, Erdrick's armor would let you walk through the poison. And the silver shield, and it's like you said, the fairy fountain where you had to go to a town. You see the one fountain, walk down 4 steps, search, and you're going to find the fairy flute that serves one purpose, to kill the golem out front of the town that you buy the silver shield. So, but this stuff was fascinating back then.
Did you remember that golem? Because the town was surrounded by a wall, and there was one space you could walk through.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm here. And then in that space was that sand golem. And somebody who's never played RPG before, how would you even fathom you have to put him to sleep with an item in your inventory?
Yeah, exactly.
I just start swinging.
It's always swinging. And he just beats on you. It's the only golem in the whole game. You got stone men and gold men, but
there are stone golems in that last dungeon.
But that's the only golem like that you put to sleep. There's unique enemies like that.
Yeah.
That one, I think that's the only. Let me see if that's the only one. That's the only unique enemy.
They stole the whole Mega Man idea, using the right weapon to beat him the right way.
There's the one guy that where you get Eldrick's armor. You walk onto that square, and it's an Axe Knight. But is that the only Axe Knight in the game?
No, there's other Axe Knights in the game.
Oh, okay.
Axe Knights were like after that guy, because you wanted to get there early to get that armor, and if you got lucky, you could get in there. And I just tried it over and over. It's like you said though, you had to save at the king. And so if you went in there and died, you got to walk all the way back, because that was that was a long walk. But if you got lucky and started beating on him or put him to sleep, or he tries to or you stop spell him, or he's just trying to stop spell you, is what he tried to do all the time.
What was the terminology for a critical hit? You perform an excellent strike or something. Yeah. It was like you would go from hitting for 10 to hitting for 46, and it's totally random, but. You could
hit the Axe Knight,
you could steal a win.
Yeah, exactly. And it would you push it and then it goes, and then it goes. But if you do a critical strike, it goes whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Like he sliced it like I just see him doing an X.
Hollywood, why don't you tell us your story about your encounter with the axe knight when we were in junior college?
I'll tell it. Let me find the name of that beast that I was trying to fight. Let's see, dragon. Actually, I tried it. You got to know what enemy it is. That's part of the thing.
I could have sworn it was that.
I know exactly what he looks like. It's not the axe knight. It's the red version. Because it was just the same enemy redrawn sprite, except for it had a shield. But it was way more. It's way tougher. Let's see, knights. I got everything here. Armored knight. And that's what he was. Armored knight. And dude, these things. So I'm gonna see what the description says on this website. This is on Strategy Wiki. Fighting him can be like attacking a tank with a toothpick. Powerful armor, attack, and magic found in Dragonlord Castle's lowest depths. So, one unique thing about this game is there's no items to restore your MP. The only way you can restore MP, your magic, is to sleep in an inn, or there's one guy in the castle, the king's castle, that will restore it for you. And so I was like, I'm going to go kill Dragonlord. I was sitting by myself at Jones in the dorm, and I'd got my brand new, it wasn't brand new, of course, it was a Nintendo. And even then, that was in 99, 2000. So Nintendo had been out over a decade. So that's like playing a PlayStation 2 or something, I guess. Maybe a PlayStation. And so I was trying to get to the Dragon Warrior, and I was a little hot-headed back then. And got with my full MP, and I got to the Axe Knight. And it's not Axe Knight, the Armor Knight. So you have to chant Stop Spell on this guy, because he'll just heal. And you can't beat him. He'll use heal more and just keep healing. So every time you use Stop Spell, it chooses so you're into your MP, and you can't refresh it.
And you only hit him for like 3 or 4 at a time.
You hit it for a decent, but it has so much. Let me guess how much HP it has. This was high too back in the day.
He had to have at least close to 100.
Yeah, he had 90.
That's a lot when you're hitting for 4.
Yeah. you hit for more than 4. You hit him for 20 or so. It took about 4 swings, but every time after that third swing, he would just heal. So I'm trying to chant Stop Spell on this guy, because if I don't, I'm going to be here forever, and I'm using all my heal. So you have no choice. You're going to use MP on heal or Stop Spell once, which talks like 2 MP. And you just hope you don't run into him. That's all it ultimately boils down to, because you need all your MP for the Dragon Lord. Well, I ran into him, and they did not play. It wasn't like every time you chant Stop Spell, we're going to make you have a better chance for it. Sometimes it didn't work. Spells just didn't work sometimes. I kept chanting Stop Spell on it. It said, the spell does not work. And I was like, oh man, I got to do it again. The spell does not work. The spell does not work. And the game will sit you there all day if you just happen to roll the bad roll of the dice, to where you just keep doing that. And I said, in my head, I said, you stupid game, and you say Stop Spell again, and I'm gonna smash you. And I chanted Stop Spell, and I remember it. It said the spell does not work. And I just snapped, man, and I grabbed the controller's cord like a morning star and started swinging it. I was like this. I had to build up some momentum. And then when I had it right, I came down right on, and I hit it perfect too. You'd think I'd a Braveheart or something. Come down, boom! And it just gashed the top of the Nintendo. I was so mad, and and it made a gash on top of the Nintendo, and it started blinking. It started doing the green screen blink. But oh man, I was so furious. It's like, and that was my mentality back in the day when I was that kind of guy. I mean, it's just like, if you're not going to work, I don't care if you work anymore, because it don't matter.
You feel bad about it afterwards, but at the time,
but the Nintendo controller was, it was the thing to do, and so it still worked. I don't even know where that Nintendo's obviously gone now, but you could still put a game on the top of the game that's in there, and it would have worked.
It's probably yours. I bought off of eBay a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I got one. I got two. I got the top loader and the front loader, and then I got that USB retro USB I was talking about.
The guy I bought it from, it said in the description, he said, may require second Nintendo tape to work. Anybody that ever had one knows, that doesn't mean it's defective. It just means you might have to wedge it down.
Mm-hmm. And so, and that's why did they stop working? Well, one of the things was the lockout chip they had. Excuse me. Oh, man, give me a second. Yeah, one of the things was the lockout chip that Nintendo did. So they basically had and this is a whole other podcast too, but they basically had a monopoly.
I was going to say, let's try not to go too deep into that.
I'm not going to go too deep.
For a podcast later.
Yeah, but it had a lockout chip on it, so the game had to match. The game. Nintendo produced the carts too, so they had to have code in there that matched the Nintendo for it to sync up. Well, it didn't really work it worked as planned because it kept pirating down or non-existent. Besides Tenjin, who went a dirty way to get it done. But anyway, so that if it didn't match up, it would start blinking. That's what that meant. But a lot of times the games won't work now because when you had to do that front loader, like we talked about, like our first podcast, is why they did a front loader instead of a top loader to make it look like a VCR. It's an entertainment system, not a video game system. So it would sell back then after the video game crash. When you put that in there and push down, it starts bending those connectors in there. Mm-hmm. And so that's what happens. So a lot of guys will go in there and they'll put the new 52-pin chip, and a lot of times you'll go on eBay and it'll say, hey, it's got a new chip, pin chip in there. Make it work for at least another few months before it gets bent again. But the top loader don't have that. But anyway, that's kind of cool info. But this game, Dragon Warrior, like we were talking about, HP, XP, experience points, and gold, and all this kind of stuff. Whatever you got to do to get your guys built up stronger was a brand new concept. But once it hit, it started to catch on a little bit, at least for big sales back then. Do you know how many it sold? I don't know.
Well, actually, when it first hit here, it actually did not do very well.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo gave it all away for free. The Nintendo Power Deal was where
everybody had it.
Everybody got it. And they probably didn't factor that into sales.
Yeah. They were, let me look. I had it a minute ago, how well it did.
But yeah, come back to you, tell me when you find it, but I'm just saying when the people understood how this worked, it still caught on a little bit. RPGs never got popular until really mainstream. It's tough because you got Chrono Trigger. Huh?
Elder Scrolls is probably when.
No, I'm talking Final Fantasy VII is really when it hit hard. But people, everybody that loves RPGs and is a retro gamer, you're going to have Final Fantasy 3 and Chrono Trigger as the two top of the list, almost with every single person our age. But
you know how crazy that mechanic is? Think about the fact that in Metal Gear Solid 5, you gain experience.
Yeah.
It left the fantasy realm. In sports games, you gain experience. Your pitcher levels up. Your running back levels up. Just this this whole concept it just proliferated throughout the entire gaming world. You can extend the life of your game by allowing the characters to change. If you just
you can develop the character the way you want to.
Right. It gives you a sense of ownership.
And replayability, absolutely. And so but a role RPG stands for role playing game. So a lot of people, well, like you said, it kind of is bled over into sports and this kind of stuff. But a lot of people will just think, if not a real hardcore gamer, if it has swords in it, man, that's an RPG. If it has swords and shields, right? A lot of people will call Zelda an RPG, which I do not consider Zelda an RPG. Zelda
adventure game.
You're going to,
adventure game.
Yeah, it's an adventure game, but you get your weapons and stuff. You use that against whatever weapon you find in the dungeon, you're going to use on the boss. I mean, that's the only way to do it. I mean, you can get him with your sword sometimes, but most of the time, you're going to use it against the boss. there's really no way to develop Link any other way.
You're not Link, which by definition makes it not a role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so role-playing, you get to choose the path, choose how to develop your character. The exception may be Breath of the Wild, and I'm just thinking out loud here. Did you play Breath of the Wild?
I didn't.
Man.
I haven't played it.
I haven't played a Nintendo system since 64.
Well, Breath of the Wild, that game, I mean, I'll tell you right now, you are missing out in life, and especially as a video gamer, if you do not play Breath of the Wild. I'm telling you.
What system was that on?
I got it on Wii U, but they have it for the Switch, and there's really not a whole lot of difference, and I didn't really care to get the Switch for it because it was actually developed for the Wii U, but everybody knew, like, hey, they're going to hold off and put it on the Switch.
My girlfriend's got a Wii. I might get it.
A Wii U?
I'm not sure.
Has it got the gamepad that you look at the screen?
It's got the controllers that you can like bowl and play tennis with.
No, that's just the regular Wii. Yeah, that's the regular Wii. Okay, so here's a little more about Dragon Warrior and everything. In June of '89, it was speculated to be the North America's biggest hit for that Christmas, and he based it on the Electronic Gaming Monthly's Quarterman. That was one of the guys writing an article in Electronic Gaming Monthly, if y'all remember that magazine.
Yes, sir.
He actually speculated that it was going to be the big seller for North America after seeing Dragon Quest III's sales in Japan. Well, it didn't do that hot, and in late 1990 is when Nintendo Power gave free copies of Dragon Warriors to subscribers because they just wanted to get rid of the cartridges. They couldn't sell this game at all. They wanted to get rid of it, so they just gave it away there. The interesting fact about this is if you got it with Nintendo Power, you got a 64-page Explorer's Handbook that has a full walkthrough of the game. It gives you the additional backstory, not mentioned in the original instruction booklet. I mean, it gives you all this stuff that they gave you for free because they just want to get rid of the cartridges. At the time they gave it away, the cartridge was actually worth $50 at retail, and the magazine subscription fee was only $20 at the time. So to get you the to get the subscription, you paid $20 to have it for an entire year. So basically, you got the game for free. And after this giveaway, it attracted nearly 500,000 new magazine subscribers, and so many of them renewed just to get the game. So that's when Dragon Warrior actually finally had success. I don't have how many copies were actually sold, but you're looking around 500,000 copies were just given away for free with Nintendo Power, and that's where it actually started growing in popularity, is from Nintendo Power.
Yeah, it's real cheap. I actually bought I got that exact Stratton Adventures guide you're talking about, and they also had another more detailed, as far as the art goes, book inside Nintendo Power, and I wish I got it off in the back room there, but It really, the art style looks amazing on it. It drew all the swords out with all the detail and stuff like that, and it actually came in there too. I got two of them. One of them's in like pristine condition.
Well, Nintendo Power actually gave 3 feature articles on Dragon Warrior for issues between May and October of '89, trying to build the hype for the game. This was their hype machine. And the November-December '89 issue includes a strategy guide. So there was a small strategy guide that you could get for the game, around that time. And then the March-April '90 issue of Nintendo Power has the map of the game world, the one that you were speaking of earlier, that covered the map of the world and all the dungeons and everything.
Yeah. Let me show you. This is the one I'm talking about right here. Do you remember this one?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, that was the one that I really...
Because it had the awesome art to it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the strategy guide that came out. That was the strategy guide that came out in, which one? The November-December issue.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
I remember that map there. I don't see how you could navigate that game without a map.
Yeah, it was tough. So.
It was very overwhelming at the time because all we had played up until that point was side scrollers where it's impossible to get lost.
Yeah.
Well,
guys, I'm gonna have to start wrapping this up soon because I'm gonna need to get on the road here shortly.
All right, let me just talk about Zelda. real quick with the first time I saw that, because it's kind of the same type of thing, because everybody had these extra men and all this. Well, Dragon Warrior technically didn't have one. You just had one guy, and if he dies, then you lose half your gold or whatever the case. But dude, if you need to go, man, you can go. We'll wrap it up.
Okay.
It's all
I'm
good.
fixing to have to bail out.
Okay.
So okay. All right, I'm gonna stop recording on my side.
All right.
Good to see you, man. Take care.
All right, you too, man.
But so I was over at Dre's house, and he had his first place I saw a Nintendo. He had his he had his map out on the ground for Zelda, and I went over there and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this going on? What is he doing? And his mom started talking. He's like, Mom, quit talking. You only get one life on this game, and if you die, you lose. It's over. And I was like, oh my, this is like a real adventure. But, of course, nobody knew about saving, but how to even do it. But it's just, stuff you take for granted now. It's just become staples in video games.
I remember Dre was the Nintendo Power person. Everybody would seek out his counsel once a month when that issue came in to see if it might have the game you were playing at the time.
Like you said, because Nintendo Power was every 2 months at first.
It's just hard to believe how. I don't know if we were that broke or we just didn't have access to the stuff we do now. Like the internet has spoiled us so much, but back then it was
you
just
didn't have access. And you just had no choice but to, when we were kids, right? So you didn't have $60 laying around to go buy a new game as soon as something got hard or a new game hit, right? So you're going to play that game over and over and over. It's the only game you got, or one of the few that you got. And so you might get 2 games a year or something. And then, so you learned how to do it. And plus you shared what you knew with each other. And that was a cool thing. But you just go to visit somebody's house, one of your friends' house, and I got my Nintendo. Yeah, you got Nintendo, cool. And they pull out their games, and you're just like, you look at the cartridge, the art, the box art or whatever, and you're just like, oh, let's play this one, and that's how you learned about new stuff.
Yeah, I remember Josh was the only person I ever knew that had a TurboGrafx 16, and I used to love watching him play Slaughterhouse.
Yeah, that was like a
Slaughterhouse, and I think Bonk, the guy with the big head, the caveman.
Yeah, that was the mascot for it.
It was very short-lived, but I just things like that just stand out in my mind from when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's kind of how you get that one character that dies, no extra men or whatever, and that kind of throws you off for if you're not used to that with Zelda. But Zelda was the first one that kind of did that. But I remember I type my name in to play, but I could never figure out why it's not saving when I go to save. I just push select to go to save and turn it off. It didn't work. And then my uncle figured it out and called my mom and said, oh, I figured out how to save. And you had to go to save once you died and then push select, go to save, and then push A to select it. But nobody knew that.
All the four buttons to choose from.
Yeah. That's the thing that trips me out when you're playing on that regular Nintendo with somebody that's never played it. What button do I push to jump? It's like, dude, push one or the other. It takes you 2 seconds or a half a second to do it.
It feels so awkward now to pick up that little paddle after playing with, the 64 controller was a monstrosity, but even I think the Xbox controller is a bit much. I think a PlayStation controller is perfect. My favorite thing about the PS4 was that it's not that much different than back to the PS1 controller. It's just got those extra bumpers on the top, but
it's all this exact same.
Ergonomically, I guess is the word. The controller fits the hand.
And I remember when Xbox, the original, came out, that controller was just like real fat. It's just a big. It was the exact same one it has now, but it was just fatter.
Yeah.
And everybody complained about it, and then they just got the little ones out. But I like the Xbox control for 360. That was real nice. And it was really weird to play the PlayStation because if you were reaching all the way across with your thumb instead of right there where the D-pad is on the PlayStation, for the Xbox.
Yeah, I play. I have an Xbox controller for my PC game and some stuff, that's not mouse and keyboard friendly. But something about, I don't know, I guess it applies to PlayStation 2, but like when you're playing shooters and you have to take your finger off of the stick that moves you around to use the direction pad.
Yeah.
I guess there's no way around it, but it
they got those controllers now that they're called something. I can't remember what they're called, but they let you map buttons to the two paddles on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why a lot of people, you play Call of Duty, they'll just dive immediately while they're still shooting in the air.
Yeah.
And it's because they just have that paddle that they hit the button and it does that. People use it for Destiny. It's called like I can't remember, Scab or Scarb controller, something like that. I don't know. But
I just don't care about winning enough to modify my controller.
Yeah, but people, these competitive gamers or whatever. But anyway, you got anything else about Dragon Warrior or RPGs in general?
No, I just the whole reason I even brought this up to you was, just like playing Skyrim and Witcher, and I got real heavy into Dark Souls, Diablo, Everquest, Path of Exile. It all started with Dragon Warrior. Like, Dragon Warrior was the first fantasy genre experience I had. And now, books I read, movies I watch, Lord of the Rings, Braveheart, everything about, I feel like I was born in the wrong century. Like I love that sword and shield, Great Britain, castles. I love that. And eventually I'm sure I would have been exposed to it otherwise, but the fact is Dragon Warrior was the first. And it'll always, not to sound, sappy or nostalgic or whatever, but it has a place in my heart, like my life, that I can't really say that Skyrim has that place because it wasn't the first.
Yeah, and Dragon Warrior, there was not a whole lot of difference. Like we kind of talked about a little bit of difference from the Japanese version to our version with the battery backup. Little things like the character, he stayed facing forward in the Japanese version instead of he actually turned in the direction you were walking. But that's a genre called the Japanese RPG, right? So you're talking about the Final Fantasies, even a Chrono Triggers. Those are the Japanese versions. So now you got the Western RPGs like Skyrim. Even like Fallout, stuff like that, and that's kind of taken over now, and it's popular in Japan. I can't remember the very first Western RPG. In fact, I'm going to look that up because that was the defining. That kind of turned the tide there for different the RPGs. Man, I'm about to open up a whole new.
You can definitely pick up on that medium. Like I've been watching Sword Art Online. It's a Japanese cartoon that kind of. I don't want to say it makes fun of, but it points out the MMORPG, how it consumes people's lives, and I've really enjoyed it. Anime, the Japanese influence is obvious. You can tell even in Dragon Warrior, some of the translations don't carry over right. Like that old meme, all your base are belong to me, because it doesn't translate, and you can see some of the dialogue in Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, for sure. It the Vita, PlayStation Vita that's out, or it's been out, but that's kind of the only thing that's really being developed for it is Japanese RPGs, and it's gotten so wacky to me. I can't play them. And I like Japanese RPGs, or the old ones, like we were talking about Chrono Trigger and whatnot. But it's gotten like the art form of it. It's just really anime now, and it's just I just can't do it.
Yeah, some of it's.
And they got one game called Trillion on Vita, and all it is a boss with a trillion HP. That's all you do. Just kill a boss with a trillion. I hadn't played it yet. I got it.
That's why I haven't bought any of the new Final Fantasy games, because they've just they've gotten so overboard with that Japanese anime. What's the Pokemon and then Dragon Ball Z?
I didn't play that
like that takes the whole fantasy aspect out of it that I was alluding to earlier, because people in ancient Great Britain don't look like that.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. But like, so Diablo looks like is one of the first RPGs, so that are Western RPGs. So you start to see kind of that come out, and like that was in the late 90s.
I still got that disc.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff. But Suikoden was an awesome game on PlayStation. You need to play that if you can. Suikoden and Suikoden 2. If you got a Vita, or you'd have to get a Vita. I don't think they got them on the PlayStation PSN on PlayStation 4. Maybe they do, but Suikoden and Suikoden 2. I know they got it on Vita, and they probably do got it on the PS4. So I think that was a big deal that it came out. It's called it's Suikoden. Phenomenal game.
I subscribed to that PS Now for my girlfriend to play those old games, and I've been surprised at what I could find on there. Spell that again.
Yeah, Suikoden. And so this is a game where you start off as just a little. I don't even remember the Suikoden 1 that bad. So you got to be 1 or 2. That's the ones you got to play, and it actually can pick up where you can pull characters in from 1. There's 108 party members you can recruit, and some of them just do stuff like building your castle and whatever. But you're basically a rebel or whatever running from the Empire, and you just recruit an army, and you get your army all built up, and then so some of the scenes are where you're fighting. You got a party of 6 fighting enemies, and it's the same thing, hitting with numbers and that type of deal. When you hit something, critical hits, you got spells, but it's also large scale war to some degree, very minimal. Suikoden 2 introduced where it's a one-on-one battle with other people as well, and they'll say, just like sticks, it's a rock paper scissors type of mechanic, to where they'll say something like, "Oh, you're going to really feel this hit, so you know you're going to do a wild blow, so you just want to defend, and you can attack, defend, or wild blow, or something like that." But anyway, you'll like it, man. That's one of my favorite games. It's actually very expensive. It's like $250 for the hard copy.
I played Final Fantasy 1 on my cell phone at work last year, and it's just it's amazing how rewarding just the simplest things are. Even though we have the technology to make a pretty much live action virtual reality movie, a lot of times the actual fun factor of the game is just not there.
Right. Yep. The fun factor is what they had to rely on back in the day.
Yeah.
They didn't have all this blockbuster cinematics and whatnot, and that's why you can go back and play a lot of Super Nintendo is my favorite system. You can go back and play a lot of games that like Super Metroid I didn't play. This is a testament to it. I didn't play that as a child, but I went back and played it, and I played it all the way through. I enjoyed it so much. But anyway, we just wanted to give you guys a quick little history and retrospective on some Dragon Warrior and just RPGs in general. So we will definitely have Coach back on for some other games. What do you think is a good game to go over? Do you get on the spot here?
I'd like to go into
They can go modern too.
The military type gaming, like all the way back to the original Metal Gear. Metal Gear Solid has a real special place with me.
Just the Metal Gear series or so.
Yeah, and we can talk about the turd that was Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo. Yeah, that's a
Nintendo.
go play. Just put So again, this what we're talking about RPGs is really funny because Zelda 2. You gain levels in Zelda 2, and Rambo. So nobody understood that mechanic at that point. And it's the exact same. It's the exact same game, except for just reskinned.
I heard you mention that the other night, and it made sense to me. I can see that.
It is. It's when you just the jump mechanic and everything. When you hit it with the knife versus the sword.
The knife out in front of you.
Yeah, you got to fight the tiger and tigers and monkeys, and you never get to the people hardly. That was a game, kind of like when you're walking left, and then all of a sudden you're walking in a different direction. Like if you get on the boat, when you get off the boat on Rambo, if you go left or something, it like starts you back at the beginning of the game or something weird. You got to go right. Yeah. And so if you didn't know that, you just get off the boat, you can go anywhere. Yeah. And so there's no way to tell you. They didn't say, hey, go right off the boat, or we're going east or west or whatever. You just pick the direction, and you just.
I used to rent that, and I rented Friday the 13th from the little video store down the street from my house, because that was all that was ever in. And I was just lost for like years of my life in those games.
You just throw rocks.
You walk north, and now you're headed east. You turn right, now you're headed south, and you just never eventually.
If you get in the woods, you're stuck in there. You're never getting out of the woods.
Yeah.
And but they throw rocks, and like the little enemies, if they get to right the point, it just goes right over their head. It just made you have to duck to do it. You can't have a rock, man. You got to duck down. But an interesting thing about Dragon Warrior, I did forget about this. When you get to Dragon Warrior at the end, he offers you the chance, and I did this first time ever. Says, "Do you want to rule the kingdom with me? Yes or no?" You don't have to fight me. You can just rule with me. Mm-hmm. And I picked yes to see what it does. And then all your words just turn red and it just locks up. Like the game didn't expect you to do it. But no, it didn't expect you to say that after all that hours you put in. But no, it does turn red and it locks up, and it's supposed to, it says it puts you to sleep or something like that is what is supposed to happen. But it literally just locks up and sits there. And it's like, you made your choice. Game over. So I had to go back from the king and go back to him.
Another thing about that, that's the first game I ever remember, like, it surprised me when I killed him in human form. I was like, yeah, I win, And then it's like, he has turned into a dragon. And now you have to fight him again, and you're at, like, half hit points, half magic points. And I still wound up killing him, but it was like, now that's a pretty common thing in games is you think you've won and they morph into some other form. And
you immediately, like, this boss is too easy. There's something going to happen. Now it's just like you're fighting Dragon. Like, man, Dragon Warrior's not that hard. I just must be good. and then he turns into that, and you're like, oh, okay. And he's obviously a unique boss and a unique dragon. It's real big.
That's something I forgot to mention earlier when we were just talking about the game in general and how different it felt. I remember, like, fighting these normal enemies. They're hitting you for, like, 8, 9, 10, maybe 13. And then this next enemy you see is like, whoa, I've never seen this before. What is this? A wyvern? It's like, hits you for 36.
And you can't run. And you try to run, and it blocks in front every time. The wyvern was that's like the tipping point of you run into that thing.
Difficult enemies. And when I beat Dragon Warrior, I think I had like maybe 120 hit points. And now games, it's not uncommon to have like 50,000 hit points. Enemies are hitting you for 12,000. Swords doing 8,000 damage. It's just that's not necessary. It looks better on the screen, I guess. Gives people a better sense of power.
Yeah, Dragon Lord had 100 HP. The Arbor Knight had 90.
You never knew how many hit points the people we were fighting had. Now games put like a hit point bar, and you see it going down, 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 down. Back then, you just kept fighting until it said you slayed them. You could be at 3 hit points, and they could still be at 50, or they could be at 1. You didn't.
Yeah, you never knew.
Right.
So you counted it, or I did, by the number of attacks I had to do. So like, okay, this is a wyvern, I got to hit him 3 times, and it's over. And then if I only had to hit him 2 times, then I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting more powerful. Mm-hmm. So as a kid, that's what you would do. But yeah, you try to run, and they block you in front. And that's what it says. You were blocked in front. You try to run, and then it pauses, but you were blocked in front. You're like, dude.
I think that's part of the Japanese translation, like, going wrong, because that's such inappropriate, like, wording.
but I know what I know what
you've been blocked.
But it's but it was But I was going to say that you get the final spell at 17, I believe, the Heal More spell. But the levels actually cap out at 30. So you can pretty much level up all the way again to get to 30. And I believe I I think it's 3,000 HP per level. It caps out at, that first is, 10 experience and you get a level. And next time it's 30 or whatever, and it builds up. But at some point it caps out at 3,000 and stays there until the end. And I always wanted to go back and finish it with 30 experience, but the Japanese said that when they made it, that's what's supposed to do. You grind it out. They like the grind because it shows there's something else at the top of the mountain, so to speak, and that's what we're trying to earn. But they actually re-released it on Game Boy in a dual cart, one cart with Dragon Warrior 1 and 2. And it's a lot more fun on that because you level up faster, you get more gold faster. Just more of a digestible experience than have to go and really grind on an NES version.
I never really tried to play it anymore after I beat the last guy. I just it seemed like the enemies stopped spawning.
No, once you kill Dragon Warrior, they do not. Yeah, they go away. You walk back, and most people just come out and you can throw some wings in the air, or you'll chance your return spell. But you can walk all the way back with no enemies. You also have to save the princess halfway through.
So you have to get to level 30 before you finish the game, pretty much.
No, I mean you can go there at 20. And you're probably good, but it will go to 30. I wanted to just wipe Dragon Warrior out, with 2 hits or whatever, to see what it was like because it was just something to do. But I don't think I ever made it that far. I get to level 24 or 5, and I'm like, man, it's just too much of a grind. It's not really worth it because you already know what's going to happen or whatever. You don't add too much difference. You can already beat on Dragon Warrior pretty easy at that point.
Everybody finishes the game with Edric's armor, Edric's sword. It's like there's
silver shield.
There's no sense of individuality, like
you can't.
Like Dragon Age, my character is probably configured totally different than yours was when you finished the game, and it's still possible. But it was the infancy of RPGs, but you were kind of shoehorned into one experience.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. So Metal Gear, maybe. I don't know. We got the list out. We got to figure out which one's next. But I'd like to have you back on one for sure. You work. We try to do these weekly, and you work a week at a time. So.
Yeah, just every other week. I'll probably be available. And I mean, I really enjoyed it. I surprised myself. I usually don't like stuff like this due to my social anxiety.
But it's just different. It's just fun to, and that's what we're trying to do, man. It's just chop it up.
It's a lot more personable than I thought. Having the webcam and everything. It's like you're actually here at my house talking. So
yeah, and that's what it's about, man. I just try to have fun doing it, and hopefully the people that are listening can kind of relive that. The same way we are. And everybody's got their own nostalgia about it, but hopefully it's entertaining as well with just whatever the news and get some news updates, whatever. We're still trying to work out the structure, but either way, I'm having a great time doing it, man. I'm glad you could be a part of it.
Same here, man. Stay in touch.
Well, cool. All right. Well, appreciate you guys sticking around, and we will drop something next week. See ya.
Later.